In today's class, we're going to talk about reliable and unreliable sources of information. This class will give you the knowledge skills to choose quality sources of information and distinguish those that we so often use which are not so trustworthy. That is the very meaning of reliability. Now, what are sources of information? They are references and evidence a writer uses in his or her research that influence and support the work. But why do we need to cite them? We need to cite them for many reasons. First, to provide authenticity or credibility to our own work. As a matter of fact, this can strongly support the argument that you make in your writing. It is also a way for others to verify the information you wrote, which again contributes to the credibility of the writing. It limits plagiarism and saves a lot of problems, both academically and legally. Nobody wants to be sued over having copied someone else's ideas or writing. Now, where do we usually find sources of information? We can find in libraries, online scholarly journals, dissertations, internet websites, newspapers, video collections such as documentaries, and all around the community like government offices, educational institutions, and libraries. But what makes a source of information reliable? One of the things is knowing the author. It is difficult to trust someone you don't know the identity, right? Also, it is reliable when that person is part of a respected academic community, like universities. Writings that rely on research, but also here often you can find sources of information based on weak research, unfortunately. Sources are reliable when they are printed by established publishing companies, which you can have some history of credibility to, and also when they are found in information centers. In any case, you still need to be critical about it. On the other hand, an unreliable source of information is when you don't know the author, or when it is an opinion-based writing, because information tends to lack evidence or to be biased. An example of this is independent blogs. Also, most websites that end in .com and .org fall in this category. And finally, if you read something that reports data but does not cite their sources, is terribly unreliable. Now, we often use web search tools to find information we need, such as Google. But is Google a reliable source of information? What do you think? Google's search mechanism has a very broad reach. It searches for everything anywhere in the web. But its complex algorithms are based on popularity. And usually the first hit you get is Wikipedia. Have you noticed? What about Google Books? Have you heard about this one? Google Books is a more specific search tool from Google that searches all the books it can find, but uses the same mechanism as Google tool, popularity. Another tool, Google Scholar, is a more specific tool for scholars, and the search mechanisms are similar to the way researchers rank their papers, which considers the weight of the full text of each document, where it was published, who wrote it, and how often and how recently it has been cited by other scholars. It is a more appropriate and reliable search tool, but still, the sources found are not always recent. In summary, if you want to find reliable sources of information on websites, look for pages that end in .edu because they belong to education institutions. Still, they can contain political bias, so be aware. .gov belong to government websites and they usually contain reliable statistics and reports. .org belong to non-profit organizations and can be reliable, but again, be aware of their own agendas. Online journals and magazines can be reliable if they reference the sources they used. If they don't support their ideas with evidence of other sources, it is unreliable. Now, where can you usually find unreliable sources of information? Typically, online sites that end with .com because they belong to companies that conduct their business over the internet. Ask yourself, are they trying to sell you something? A a product or idea. Also, Wikipedia, blogs and tweets, personal websites and forums are unreliable. Sites that end with .html, which stands for the basic building block of web pages, are unreliable because anybody can publish the information they want. Talking about reliable sources, in chemistry specifically, you have the American Chemical Society that promotes chemistry research education and advocacy. Also, the American Petroleum Institute distributes more than 300,000 publications each year. ChemExpert Inc. for chemical suppliers. ChemSpider is a free chemical structure database providing fast access to over 29 million structures, properties, and associated information. Also, the Wikipedia for Chemistry, ChemWiki, has open access textbooks, and the Chemistry Explained website has some reliable information too. And remember guys, sanitize your hands, put on a face mask, and keep social distance.